Welcome back to This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. It's getting late in the season, and we still got plenty to talk about. I'm Mike Hammett, along with both William and Bill Berg. Dell is off on assignment tonight, so we'll give him a free pass. And Junior, we got ourselves a guest tonight. You want to give him an introduction?
Sure. I should probably stop calling him the new Tom Shafransky. But we have LeVar Ridgeway, Assistant Director of the WIAA. LeVar is working with cross country, hockey, soccer, and softball. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I know this has been long awaited, and I've been listening to the podcast. I know you guys have been looking for me, so here I am.
Well, we talk to Tom just about every year, so you got big shoes to fill, I guess.
Definitely.
So first, what's it like, taking over as an assistant director for the WIAA while we're still in COVID land where nothing is ever certain, everything is up in the air?
Yeah. Being an AD for 8 years before coming into this role, it's something within the last year, 2 years now that you kind of deal with, and you kind of roll with the punches. And if anything, we've learned that we're able to be we can flow a little bit better. We can roll with the punches, and we can come up with new ideas given the situation. So we're doing the same thing here at the WIA, looking at ways to obviously provide opportunities for our student athletes, and provide those state championships that everyone loves to see.
Well, it's nice to hear you say that, because flexibility is not always the perception people have of the WIAA. The reputation of the WIAA over many years is kind of stodgy and locked in place.
But last year we thought that the WIAA, as far as like the other states around us, did a very good job of coming up with alternative plans for hockey and their alternative state tournament. And we were actually quite surprised at how well you guys adapted to the situation last year. So what are we looking for this to finish out the hockey season this year?
Well, fingers crossed. I mean, obviously, cases have gone up in COVID land, as you say, William. But we're looking to finish out strong with our winter tournaments and also moving into spring. So we're hoping that the cases continue to go down, and we're looking forward to hosting all of our events as planned.
Okay, because we always cover the state tournament. We get one of the suites at the end, and I tried reserving that for this year, and the Alliant Energy Centers, they said that's not been confirmed yet, that we can't rent that suite yet.
Well, I did a walkthrough actually this Monday, and I saw the suite that you guys will be in. Went with some of the staff at the Lion, did our walkthrough, and talked about the upcoming tournament. So we're looking forward to having it there at the Alliant.
Okay, because we're generally in the one right next to you guys.
Yep. And
whenever you want to swap with us.
Well, there's one on the other side with the door in between. I'm trying to figure out who gets that one. I think that might be the Coaches Association.
Oh,
they get the grand suite.
Yeah, because you guys have better sight lines there, so we're trying to do our stats and our plus minus. We have to be able to see the players coming in and out of the doors whenever a goal is scored. So, like I said, if you guys ever want to swap with us, we'll take that one on the end.
Maybe we can rock paper scissors for it.
We'll trade our popcorn we get for it. You can have it.
So now, which school were you in AD with? I had this written down, but I can't find it.
Shorewood High School.
So for hockey, that would have been the Whitefish Bay, Nicolay, Shorewood. Yeah, yep, WNS co-op.
Yep, for girls USM, for boys Whitefish Bay.
All right.
So we did have the pleasure, I think, in girls to go to state. Don't quote me on the year. I think it was maybe 15 or 16.
And the boys would have went. I don't know if maybe right before you started. The boys went once too with.
I started in 13. I started in 13.
Yeah, Thomas Aiken when what's his name was the coach, our favorite
Mako.
Canadian, Mako Belkovic, our favorite Canadian. Coming into the new role this year, the coaches have certain expectations of dealing with the WIAA. How has your work been with the coaches advisory board for the boys and girls?
Experience has been great. Been working with BJ and Mark Thorne, just talking about different things. When you come into a new role and you take over a sport, just like when I was a new AD taking over at Shorewood, you get all kinds of emails of suggestions and things that you should do, or things that would work well that maybe didn't happen in the past. So, for me coming into this role, just like I did as a new AD, I'm welcoming all communications, all suggestions. And for me, I just want to see this thing, a cycle, go through one time. So I want to see how it's done, get to the alliance, seeing how the tournament works. What are some of the things that maybe we can tweak, adjust, what works well, what doesn't, and talk with those groups to see how we can make a better experience for our student athletes.
LeVar, years ago, we had the experience at the Alliant Energy Center of scoreboard kept blitzing out on us.
No.
We went through that a couple of years there, and Alliant Energy Center finally addressed it, and we've had very few problems with it now. But boy, back at that time, that was no fun.
I think the new scoreboard has been a couple of years now, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of the Alliant Energy Center, is this the final year of that contract?
Right now, it is the final year.
Has discussion begun on renewing that or looking for alternate venues?
I think the discussion has been had on all fronts, and that kind of goes back to getting all the suggestions on different opportunities, different suggestions, different venues to possibly go to, a list of venues. And then, what we want to do is take a look and see what works best on a couple of different levels, right? You want to make sure what works best logistically. You want to see what works best from the fan standpoint, what works best from the player and coach standpoint, and the overall experience. Depending on which direction we go, we may not check all those boxes. We may not satisfy everybody, but I want to make sure I get all the information I can to make an informed decision.
Yeah, speaking of that, the two divisions that they have now, the Division I, Division II, that has been a real godsend for the smaller communities. We did some games this year where coaches talked to us how that having that opportunity of the state tournament is even filtering down into increasing numbers at their youth levels, because the kids coming up now can see that this is actually they can actually play for a team that has a chance to go to a state tournament. Sure. So as far as the small schools, it's been fantastic. It's kind of odd because the number is 32. There's a lot of shuffling this year with Pacelli coming back, and with some of the newer schools and teams that are on that bubble. Either the largest school in the Division II or the smallest school in Division I. Are they going to get shift back and forth every year? Or?
Well, a lot of that, it all depends on enrollment. So it depends on, whether enrollment goes up or down in certain schools, or if teams join in on co-ops, or teams or schools leave co-ops. So that's all fluid within, those things. And we look at that. And then obviously from a geographical standpoint, look at the pairings and go from there.
Is there any chances here with the state hockey tournament we do like we did last year, where the quarterfinals are held at school sites? Or was it just going to be, would it be just like the normal state tournament?
This year we'll be going back to our regular schedule. I know obviously, with COVID, things were a little bit different, and we're trying to find a way to make sure we got those games in, given that we couldn't go to our normal facility. So right now the plan is to go back to the way the schedule has been in the past.
is it going to really matter, or what's going to go on if the situation they have in Dane County with the Alliant Energy Center being in Dane County with their mask mandate?
Sure. Right now, currently the mask mandate, I think, goes to March 1st, if I'm not mistaken. We've had some preliminary talks with, folks at the Alliant and Dane County. We're fairly confident that we'll be able to, work out a plan similar to what we've done with our fall championships at some of the UW facilities with some ways to make sure we have that event there for our student athletes and spectators coming in.
Now, I want to talk about on the girls' side. There is a perception around the state that some of the larger co-ops in the state, some of the more metro co-ops, are no longer co-oping because it's necessary, and they're co-oping because it gives them a competitive advantage. I don't know whether that's true. I'm not an investigative journalist. I haven't looked into it that deeply. But like, when people are expressing concerns like that, what kind of role does the WIAA have in policing that?
I would say I would be similar to just taking in the information, seeing the concerns of coaches. Hopefully they will, bring those things up to our coaches advisory, looking at that to see if anything needs to be adjusted. I know, just for example, in gymnastics, there were some rules changed based off number of teams that can co-op and such, but not saying that that would be anything we would do in hockey right now. But those are some things that have happened in the past.
Yeah. Since he brought up, opened the can of worms that is the co-ops in girls hockey, because it seems to be having the opposite of what the professed desired purpose of the co-ops is to be able to introduce hockey as a high school sport in areas that can't fully support it yet. But since it's been going, actually the number of teams has gone down as teams have folded and become co-ops. The smaller teams, kind of like the opposite of the way it is with the two division now, that some of the smaller schools have just sort of given up, and some of the co-ops have just grown huge. Not just in terms of numbers, but in geography. I was looking at your rules for co-ops. The schools involved must be in the same geographical area. I don't know how you define a geographical area, but the Hayward co-op goes from Ashland down to Rice Lake, which is 110 miles away. And even the Wisconsin Valley Union they play most of they play their games in Hayward, which is kind of in between the two. But like the Wisconsin Valley Union, they go from Wapaka all the way to Marshfield, and they split up their games. And I looked, and like if you had a daughter who was you're in Marshfield, they had one home game. One game was played at Marshfield. The rest of their games were either played in Stevens Point, which is 30 miles away. We're played in Wapaka, a home game in Wapaka that's 65 miles away from your home. So I don't know how that fits into the geographical area aspect.
Sure. I think, what we're trying to do, or what's been done in the past, is provide opportunities for student athletes where, they may not have those afforded to them. Obviously the goal of a co-op, or the goal of co-ops in general, is to, increase participation so they can have their own standalone program. Given whatever the complexities of having, hockey at certain schools, or rink ice availability, or what have you, provide some type of barriers at some point. But again, that's something that, with me being new, I'll be looking to see and looking for feedback on.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that turned a lot of heads over the last 4 or 5 years is the number of co-ops that field their full, I think it's 22-person varsity roster, and then they have a full JV roster as well. And when you're looking at a co-op of, 5 largish Madison area schools, or, 4 largish Madison area schools fielding a full varsity team and a full JV team. Just it kind of rubs some fans the wrong way.
Sure.
So I think that's when it really started to come to a head, that I saw anyway.
Mhm.
Now you also do softball.
Yes.
And I know that softball is an 8-team Division I sport, and then 4-team in Division II and III at the state tournament. So I think, that gives, boys hockey fans hope, because they're really hoping for that 8-team Division I, just because the way the math works out now, versus the old 8-division single, or 8-section single division format. I think the 4-section division in Division I now are actually larger than they were when it was 8 sections covering all schools. So I think they're hoping for that, and I think you've got softball, which is 8, 4, and 4. So I think they see that as a good thing.
Sure. And I've gotten those emails and those requests, and talks about going 8, 4, and 4. Like you mentioned, I do have softball that has it. A lot of it, again, just taking in information, see if it works logistically, seeing if it's something that's consistent with other sports. Not only softball, it's just what we do at the WIAA. But again, I'm open to having those conversations and seeing what works best for the membership.
Well, I mean, it happens every year. No matter how many sections you're going to have, a section of depth, that's loaded. Like, you'll have some of the best teams, but right now, I mean, the in Division I, the top 3 teams in the state are all in the same section. So only one of them is going to actually go to a state tournament.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not unfortunately, but because we go off of geography, I look at in other sports, I do cross country as well, and at a sectional, the top 2 teams go to state, but in that sectional, it may be 4 teams that are very capable of going to state, or if they were in another sectional, would qualify for state. So, it's not just a hockey thing. It's, just based off of what we do.
Well, I mean, two of them are in the same city, so regardless of how many sections you have, they're going to be in the same one.
Right.
Yeah, Eau Claire North and Eau Claire Memorial are never not going to be in the same section.
Sure.
So when it comes, sectional seedings will come out here in a couple weeks, and then there's going to be, the regional and sectional games. Are you planning to get to any of those games?
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. Like you mentioned, I think we have our seating this coming Sunday. And to that note, I just want to thank you guys for all that you do, and the opportunity you give for me to look at the top 6 and listen to your podcast, so I can have an idea. As we're trying to speculate where different games may be. Your website and your podcast is one that I listen to intently to see where I may end up in the next couple of weeks.
Intently, just to make sure we're not going over the line with something we say, maybe.
We keep it respectful.
Hey, LeVar, what goes, for the average fan that may be watching out there, what goes into determining locations for regionals and sectionals?
Well, mostly it's the higher seed, and then we have a sectional final host that put in to host, just like any other sport. They have an opportunity to put in the host, and then we look at, obviously, ice time, or facility wise, if they'd be able to fit the amount of people that we're expecting to come, and then we kind of shakes out until we get to the alliance.
Because some of these sectionals are really, we've had the problems in the last couple of years of where you would have a sectional, kind of a smaller venue, but you have 2 schools of big followings, and all of a sudden you got a lot of people wanting to get in, and
Sure. Well, and
you have
I
that
know
situation.
Sure, and other sports that what we try to do, given the sectional, and like you say, you put in the host, and we try to spread the wealth a little bit. If you know what I'm saying, we want to make sure that each school that puts in gets the opportunity to have that game. So we normally do it like on a 2-year basis, where you may host for 2 years and we rotate it to another school that may put in.
The thing is about the sectional finals, I mean, we have the state tournament, but the sectional finals are just as exciting.
Sure.
To find out whether you're going to go to state or not. I mean, people get pretty juiced up about that stuff.
Definitely.
They want to see if they can make that cut, make that trip to Madison. And it's a very, very interesting time. I know for us, because we try to get around it to as many sectional finals as we can. And I mean, each one of them is usually a place that's really pretty loud, and everybody seems to be enjoying themselves a good hockey game.
And I looked it up.
When you get to that point, you hope you got some good hockey games going on. You got some of the best there, and it's good for each of those communities. It's good for the fan base, and it's good, to see, the thrill of victory, and going to the Alliant and making that Final Four. And then, traveling on down to Madison and see what happens.
Yeah, it was the 2012-2013 season that your Whitefish Bay Nicolay Shorewood co-op went to the state tournament for the boys.
Okay, so it would have been right before I got there.
Yep.
That's where Mako.
I can't lay claim to that then.
That's where Mako had the Senator playing for him.
Yeah, their captain was nicknamed the Senator. After he was done in high school, he went to Harvard.
So Mako called him. All right. Anything else?
I got one more. I got one more question. Maybe this is something you can actually look at for this year. Getting back to the girls' co-ops. It's a minor thing, but at the state tournament, they have the banners up there of all the participants. And it's not the DC Everest co-op. It's the Central Wisconsin Storm. It's not the Appleton Xavier co-op. It's the Fox City Stars. Can you do something about those banners to get them to actually match the team names that we have?
I will see what we have, but if you are you offering to sponsor those banners? Because I'm making notes now.
Good one.
If you're willing to, I got time.
I bet we could find a sponsor for those.
hey, I'm open, but I'll definitely look into it. I'll see what our stock is, and obviously we'll see who makes it. But whoever does, I'll see if I can make something happen next to the popcorn in your suite.
Yeah, because we're afraid that since we didn't have the tournament there last year, they've just been holding that popcorn for us.
My goodness.
Well, I didn't smell it when I went on my walkthrough, so I'm hoping that we'll have some fresh popcorn ready for you.
All right.
Hot dogs. I don't know. I can't promise burgers, but
Stay out of our just stay out of our refrigerator.
well, you know what? A lot of the stuff I will say, going through the walkthrough, and again, I'm going from my point of view of not seeing behind the scenes. I know a lot of work has been done at the Alliance. The locker rooms have been redone, and some fresh paint has been put out in the bowl. So they are looking to improve some of the facilities down there. So I was happy to see that.
Did they happen to say when the ice is going to go in?
No, we're working on that right now. I think they have a monster truck show coming in the next
this weekend.
Weeks. Yeah, so we're looking at working with the company, see if we can get that ice down and get it nice and hard, right? So it won't be soft and slow, right?
MJ, what day is that monster truck thing
on? Saturday and Sunday.
No. Sunday.
That was a good setup.
Old commercial.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for Mr. Ridgeway today. Thank you for coming.
Now, I appreciate you guys having me again. I look forward to seeing you down in the suite down at the Alliant early March. Looking forward to continue to listen to the podcast and use my little cheat sheet here to see where I may be going and seat wise for the upcoming playoffs. And then when I get back to Stevens Point, I'll look in the archives here and see what my banners look like for Bill.
All righty.
Well, thank you, sir.
LeVar, we appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for having it. Have a good one.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. LeVar Ridgeway from the WIAA getting
Trial by fire.
trial by fire. Isn't that the truth? But Burglar, good point about the banners up there. I can see some of those kids walking in. It's like, what team is that?
Well, I'm always looking at that when I look at the bracket that the WIA puts out. Wait a minute, which one of them is the Stoughton Co-op? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they could put like the team name and then the schools like in parentheses or something behind it on the assignments, that'd be nice.
Well, let's move on to our.
I've been looking at these, these lists of co-ops for 20 years now, and I still have trouble remembering which one is which sometimes.
Especially the ones that have about 10 schools in it.
Or like the fact that like West Bend and Germantown and Grafton keep like switching the name of who's in charge.
Mm-hmm.
So it keeps changing. Like, come on, man. This is hard enough.
Our games of the week. Burglar, you were able to go and check out Rhinelander taking on Mosinee.
I was. Actually, we both did. We went to that, Bill and I went to that game. Mosinee came out of that game. I mean, Mosinee came into that game with the idea that they were going to beat the snot out of Rhinelander. And they tried physically to beat the snot out of them, but did not happen on the scoreboard. Mosinee controlled the play for a good chunk of the game, but Rhinelander ended up winning that game 6-3. It was a good game. I don't know. What do you think, Bill?
It was the most physical game I've seen this season. Yeah, out of all the games we've watched, the D2 games, the D1 games, even the high-end D1 games, that was easily the most physical game I've seen this season. They were just seconds away from throwing haymakers. There were checks flying left and right.
Well, there was one play where I actually thought I was surprised that the guy only got away with just 2 minutes for cross-checking. After one of the Rhinelander plays basically got checked out of his helmet. He went into the boards and his helmet went flying, and one of his defensemen, came to his aid and, started wailing on the guy that hit him. And, got away with just 2 minutes for cross-checking. But yeah, it was a very physical game.
And the initial hit that knocked the helmet off, from the angle we had, it looked like a clean hit. It was just a fluke thing that the helmet came off. It wasn't like the guy took the guy's head off.
So Rhinelander ended up winning that game against Mosinee 6-3, and probably both teams needed an ice bath after that.
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah, and then Rhinelander was poised, or there was a lot of movement at the top of the Great Northern Conference. Rhinelander did end up losing to Antigo later in the week, which I think makes Rhinelander the number 2 seed in the Great Northern Conference tournament, which starts tomorrow.
Yep. Rhinelander's 2, Mosinee's 3, Antigo's 4, Wapaka's 5. Lakeland is up at the top.
Our girls' game had Black River Falls taking on the Icebergs. Dell was there, and Dell not with us tonight, but the Black River Falls girls, I take it, they won 5-2 that game. On the girls' side, our girls' game of the week. Other games, Bill Jr., you guys got to go over to Hudson and check out their Hockey Fights Cancer game, boys and girls. How was it?
It was very fun. That was my first chance to see Hudson this year. Because they're right in our backyard, Wausau West has sort of been my measuring stick for Hudson, Eau Claire Memorial, and Eau Claire North. And, watching Wausau West against Eau Claire Memorial, it was a 4-1 game with an empty netter. Watching them against Eau Claire to North, it was a 4-2 game. And I could see a path where, if things broke the right way, Wausau West could beat Eau Claire Memorial and Eau Claire North. They need to make better passes coming out of their zone, better passes in the neutral zone, but I think they could actually do it. After watching them play Hudson, I don't see a path where Wausau West could beat Hudson this year. Using Wausau West as my measuring stick for those number 1, 2, 3 in the state, Hudson well earned their number 1 ranking. I've never seen Wausau West take a beating like that. It ended up 6-0. They only put 11 shots on goal. Really, the first 2.5 minutes of the second period was probably the only 2.5 minutes of the game Wausau West probably left happy with. That was a tough game. Hudson is just relentless. They don't get a lot of scoring from their lower lines. It comes from that top group and that top group of defensemen, but they're relentless top to bottom. They attack the puck with all their lines. That's a very good hockey team. That's a very scary hockey team. I can see why they've only got the one loss in Wisconsin right now.
Guys, how's their depth on that team? On Hudson?
Just by watching them, without looking at like players' numbers and stuff, other than like Max Giblin, I couldn't have told you, like, just watching the play for a few seconds, that's their first line, that's their second, that's their third.
Yeah, if you recall, I actually took a picture of the banners. They have 6 banners up there from the 2018-2019 season. They won the Bantam, they won the Bantam 1, Bantam 2, and Bantam 3. So they had 3 Bantam teams that won state tournaments, and those are guys who are juniors and seniors now. So they have a lot of good hockey players at that age. And Max Giblin he's something else to watch. The way he just skates through. I don't want this to come out wrong, and it's going to. And send your email to Trash or Wisconsin Prep Hockey. But sometimes when you see it more often in a girls' game, where the best player on the team is a defenseman who can just pick up the puck behind the net and skate through everybody and go down and score on the goalie. Max Giblin does that against good, solid boys teams. So, and he can control the game. Who was the last? They had a defenseman, Chase Blackman, who was like that a few years back. I mean, he just controls the game when he gets the puck.
That was one pretty stuff.
He slows everything down and sets everybody up. Yeah,
he was one special defenseman, no doubt about that. Chase right now is playing for Notre Dame. I guess he finished out his UMass Lowell and graduated there, and still had guess wanted to do some graduate stuff, and he's at Notre Dame right now playing for the Fighting Irish.
Well, and the way
not
transfers
not
work,
playing for Corey McCracken.
the way transfers work in the NCAA right now, you get one free transfer now in Division One.
Yeah, he's there.
Didn't they get an extra? Did they get an extra year of eligibility like the football players did for the whole COVID thing?
I believe so.
I think they did. I don't know really how many guys took it. Some have. Obviously, Cole Caulfield didn't take it. He didn't need it.
Yeah, Hudson's awesome. That was a really fun game to watch. Then the girls' game came.
Not
for Wausau.
Not for Chad Holmes.
Chad. I talked to Chad Holmes for a good chunk of the second period of the girls' game, and that was not a great game for Wausau West, and especially if you're broadcasting it. He doesn't have a color man in the booth with him. It's just him. So he's describing a 6-0 beatdown. So that's tough for him. Moving on to the girls' game.
Done that before. Yeah, girls' game. Go ahead.
The Hudson girls, they got some top 6 votes at the start of the season, and then they sort of fell away from the rankings. And while we were watching this game, now bear in mind, Rochester Century is not great. As far as Minnesota hockey teams go, they're not a very good team. But just watching that game, I'm like, this is not an 8-10 team. Watching Hudson play, like this doesn't look like an 8-10 team at all. Regardless of the fact that Rochester Century is not very good. So we got home and I looked into it more. Well, sure, they're 8-10 overall. They were like 7-3 in Wisconsin. And their losses came to the Fox City Stars, Hayward, who's a good team, and they split with the St. Croix Valley Fusion, who's in their section. So Hudson is a really good team. After 2, it was 2-0. They led in shots 16-7, and I tweeted out that the game wasn't nearly as close as either of those numbers would make you believe. Hudson, there were times when their players literally skated around the Rochester Century defensemen as if they weren't on the ice. Like they went around them. They didn't make a move or anything. They just went straight past them and around, and the goalie kept it out of the net, or they'd make a move and lost the handle or something like that. But yeah, it came out into the third period. They had a 2-0 lead. 6 minutes into the third period, it was running time because they scored 4 goals in the first 6 minutes. And then after that, they tacked on 3 more. 2 girls on the team had hat tricks. Leah Parker had a couple of goals. Astute Wisconsin prep hockey listeners will remember Leah Parker from the state tournament when she was a freshman. We've commented before that she's very small. Even as a senior, she was the smallest person.
I don't think she's grown.
When she went to the boards that freshman year when they were down at state, like she's too small to throw her leg up over the board. So she's like putting her stick on the boards and pushing herself up, to get over. She's, that was as a freshman, and now she's a senior and she leads their team in scoring. It's pretty obvious why. She is a very good hockey player. Hudson is in the Big Rivers Conference for the girls. They beat Chippewa Falls Menominee twice. They beat Eau Claire area twice. They beat Western Wisconsin Stars once. They play them again tomorrow. And they've split with the St. Croix Valley Fusion. So the worst they can do in the Big Rivers is 6-2. So like they could win the Big Rivers. They could very well be the 1 or 2 seed in their sectional this year. Onalaska is going to have something to say about that. St. Croix Valley is going to have something to say about that, but they could very well be up there. And like I said, they got top 6 votes at the start of the season and then sort of fell away. But I think the fact that they went like 1-7 in Minnesota, or before, this week's game, now it's 2, kind of their record kind of took everybody out. But against Wisconsin, they've been doing really well. They've only lost against, top teams. So I think that's a good team.
So good stuff over there at Hudson, watching those guys play in the Hockey Fights Cancer games over there. Very festive atmosphere.
Yeah, they had both teams were wearing special jerseys. I don't think it was the whole uniform. I think it was just the jersey. It was purple instead of their normal blue. Then they had events and stuff in the ice. They had like you've seen the stand up to cancer events at like the World Series, or where the people hold the signs. They had the signs on the wall, and each one of those signs costs $25, I believe, in donation. Correct? At least a minimum of $25. There had to be, was it like 100 of those signs on the wall? There was a lot
on each side of the wall.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
there was like 200.
There were at least 100.
Yeah, that there was. I asked the coaches, how much did you guys raise, and they were waiting for the parents to finish the tally there in Hudson. So they hadn't gotten that back to me yet, but they raised a lot of money. It was a very good atmosphere. It was a very fun event. I'm glad Davis made us go.
Yeah, we did catch one other game on Thursday. That was at Marathon Park, Eau Claire North at Wausau West. And all I'm going to say about Eau Claire North is they are fast. That is the fastest team I have seen. They are faster than Hudson. They may not be as skilled as Hudson, but as far as moving on the ice, those guys can fly.
They can. And you can see, I said, Wausau West was never really in it against Hudson. for the first 8 minutes of the first period against Eau Claire North, North took the first 9 shots of the game. And it's not like Wausau had like attempts where they missed the net or whatever. No, they weren't in Eau Claire's zone. It took them half a period to even like catch up to how fast North was. Once they did, it was actually a pretty good hockey game. But by the time they did, they were already down 2-0. So that doesn't really help. And the difference between Eau Claire North and Hudson is their coach even said it, and I had it in the article. Eau Claire North doesn't have, that one guy like you often see on ranked teams. They'll have, previous Eau Claire North teams, they had Erdahl and Stang. They don't have that guy. So their scoring for the team is a lot more balanced than some of the other teams that are ranked are, because they have to get it from everybody, and they excel at getting ugly goals. Rebound, deflection, that kind of stuff. That's how they score. So if you look at some of their games, like they put up a ton of shots, but not a lot of goals, because they're incredibly fast and they're incredibly hard to the puck, but they don't have that finish that you see out of some other teams. So they're a real wild card in that sectional because of their speed and the way things go for them. They've already beaten Hudson once. There's no reason to believe they couldn't do it again.
Yeah, the old cliche of, it took us about 10 minutes to get up to speed. That's basically Wausau West. It took them, that long to actually catch up to the speed that Eau Claire North was playing the game at. Because that's not something you can simulate in practice, because they don't have anybody that can go that fast.
Yeah, you can't make your practice squad faster. They're as fast as they are.
Before we move on, I just want to say one thing. When you guys talk about Max Giblin, and I know what Trasher would say about Max Giblin right now. Trasher would say he's the real deal.
Yeah, and unfortunately on our roster on the website, they don't have, Hudson doesn't have height and weight listed. We've seen a lot of good hockey players come out of Wisconsin, but they top out at like 5'10" or 5'11". I think he's bigger than that. I think he's like 6'2", which is, scouts like big guys.
Oh, he is. I went to the game, Hudson versus Eau Claire Memorial. At that game, the roster that they were passing out at the rink had the heights listed, because I looked at the Hudson's guy. I looked at them out there on the ice and said, these guys aren't very, except for that one guy, these guys aren't very big. That one guy was 6'7", so he just made everybody else look small. But yeah, Giblin was listed at 6'2", I believe.
No bunch of Ben Bosworths out there.
Just the one. Well, no, he was. No, he was skinny, tall, but lanky. I think they call that.
Lanky?
Not skinny.
Okay.
Yeah, lanky.
Well, talking about good players, we got our Radisson Madison Players of the Week on the boys and girls side. On the boys side, congratulations to J.J. Weebush of Madison Edgewood. What a week he had. On Tuesday, 4 assists and an 8-1 win over Oregon in a conference game. Friday, 1 goal, 3 assists, and a 10-3 win over Waukesha. And on Saturday, 2 goals, 4 assists, and a 10-3 win over Wanakee. So let's see, that's 10, 28 goals last week.
That's just, normally
Edgewood scored. Wow.
Yeah, normally players, if you have a bunch of points in blowout wins, it doesn't usually help you win Player of the Week, because in blowout wins, you're going to rack up points. That's how blowouts happen. But Edgewood beat Oregon, who is 6th in Division II. They beat Waukesha, who has been sniffing around at the heels of the top 6 for most of the year. And they beat Wanakee, who was in the top 6 for, several weeks back there. So it's not like, they won by a combined 28-5 against 3 good teams. And he sort of captained their offense through that.
Well, these weren't just 3 random games. This was the
Groundhog.
The Groundhog tournament. I thought when I looked at the bracket, so why did these have these teams that are like in the same conference playing each other in the first round? Well, it's a conference game, but it's also the beginning of the Groundhog tournament. So yeah. So yeah, the Edgewood won the Groundhog tournament in Sun Prairie.
Now you look at Wanakee. I mean, that's a team this year who's put a ton of goals on the board and getting held to 3 against Madison Edgewood. I've had a chance to see Madison Edgewood this year, and I would really like to, but I know between Menzel, Weebush, and they've got another player, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but they've got some quality kids there, and they are set to make a long playoff run. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. Girls side, guys, you're going to have to help me out with this.
Nope, that's why I put your name there. I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Michaela.
Well, I know that, but her last name.
Let's just go with Spetcher.
Spetcher. Okay. Michaela Spetcher of the Bay Area Ice Bears. Friday, 2 assists and a 2-1 win over the Metro Lynx. And on Saturday, 5 assists and an 8-0 win over Northland Pines.
Kind of weird how it works out that, you know, we never plan it like that way. I promise. We compile the list of player of the week candidates that we are sent, or, you know, we look up some ourselves and add them to the list, and then we all vote. We don't argue like it should be this player or that, but we all just vote. And it always seems to come out in the voting that we have like theme weeks. Like this week it's goalie week, this week it's defense, but this week it's assists. Weebush had 4 assists, 3 assists, and 4 assists in those 3 games. She had 2 assists in their 2-1 win and 5 assists in their other win. It's assists week in player of the week.
I did see her play in the tournament, in our tournament in Chippewa Falls. They ended up falling to the Fox City Stars in a shootout. Game ended up as a tie. She had their goal where she picked up the puck in the neutral zone and skated circles, I think, around everybody on the Fox City Stars, and came in and faked the goalie right out of the net and then just deposited the puck. Yeah. I recall that was very Datsukian.
Datsukian?
She can handle the puck.
Our Radisson Madison players of the week: JJ Weebush of Madison Edgewood and Michaela Spetcher of Bay Area. And Michaela, I'm sorry if that's not pronounced right. Somebody could set us straight on it, I'm sure.
If it's not, by a vowel.
Hey, I had to pronounce Estician, which is spelled with all I's and X's, last year at on our awards thing 2 years ago.
Bill Jr., our top 6s. People sit on the edge of their seat waiting for the top 6 while we banter about everything else.
Well, they shouldn't wait, because I post the top 6 story on Monday night, but I don't post the podcast until Tuesday morning.
Okay.
So they should already be out. But boys 1, 2, and 3 do not change. Hudson, Eau Claire Memorial, and Eau Claire North. None of those teams did anything this week that would have hurt them. And because none of them did anything to hurt them, they're probably not going to change. Madison Edgewood, on the strength of that Groundhog tournament performance, as we already said, 28-5 in their 3 games. They move up to 4th. Notre Dame Academy drops down to 5th. Nina is still holding in at the 6th spot. Hudson was unanimous number 1 this week. I didn't mark that on the notes here, but they are unanimous. St. Mary's Springs and Rice Lake split the first place votes for D2 again. And the voting was a little narrower this week, but St. Mary's Springs holds on to the top spot. They took an unexpected loss this week. Rice Lake is 2nd. Baldwin Woodville is 3rd. New Richmond moves up to 4th. Amory drops to 5th, and Somerset takes over the 6th spot from Oregon. And on the girls' side, the top 3 are the same: Bay Area, Fox Cities, and Central Wisconsin. The Madison Metro Lynx, on the heels of their overtime loss to Bay Area, moved up to 4th. So Onalaska dropped to 5th, and St. Croix Valley dropped to 6th.
Now, we alluded to the strength of hockey right now being over in the west, at least for as far as the boys are concerned, being over in the western part of the state. And you look at that Big Rivers Conference. On the tops, well, yeah, on the D1 side, Hudson, Eau Claire Memorial, and Eau Claire North. If we still did a top 10 in Division One, I think Chippewa Falls would be in there. They're not far behind. And on the D2 side, you got Rice Lake at 2 and New Richmond at 4. So, like, who's not in there? Menominee?
Menominee and River Falls.
Yeah. Everybody else is like really good as far as the rest of this, as far as comparison to the rest of the state.
So there you have it. There's our top 10 boys and our top 6 boys and girls. Let's move on.
We got a comment on the top 10 story last week, or the top 6 story. Someone asking if we would consider going to top 10 again for Division One. And we had discussed this internally. It's our site. We discuss things regularly during the off season when we decided to go to top 6. What would it take to go to top 10? And there's basically 2 ways to get D1 back to top 10. One, if the Wisconsin Hockey Coaches Association officially asks us to go back to top 10 for D1, we're probably not going to say no. We may put some conditions on it, like X percentage of coaches have to vote every week, like a minimum vote total to get from them. I mean, we have coaches who vote every week, but just, to put something on a minimum vote total that the coaches have to maintain, and you can have 10. Or the other one is if they get to 64 teams, we'll put it back at top 10.
We will see. Upcoming games of the week: Saturday, the Badgerland Conference Tournament. And Dell's going to be over at the Eastern Shores Conference Tournament. Is that right?
He's going to be there at least for the championship game. So as far as a specific game of the week, I guess if you look at a game, it would be the championship game for each of those tournaments. But yep. Bill and I are going to go over to the First Champion Center, whatever they call that over in Appleton.
I believe it's Community First Champion Center.
Okay, Community First. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Ready? Yeah. Okay. We'll be there all day, I believe, for all the games
on Saturday.
Dell can't make it until I think the championship game of the Eastern Shores. So those will be our specific games of the week.
Now, with you guys being on the road, one of the things that was talked about between you guys and guys who follow high school hockey, they wanted to know where you were going to go eat.
Yeah, we got questions about that.
Give people the criteria of where you choose to go eat on the road. Well,
ideally, they need to have a sign in the rink, because you want to support the businesses that support the local hockey association.
Whenever I get to a rink, I look around to see the sponsors.
And then recommendations from the locals of those sponsors. So we tried to actually go to one of the recommendations we got, but they were booked up for 2 hours. Downtown Hudson was hopping. So we went to the Pita Pit chain because we all like pitas.
And Pita Pit had actually 3 signs in the rink. They had a big one, which was right behind us. They had a smaller one over on the other side. No, they had 2 smaller ones on the other side, and they had a sign on the board. So there was 4 signs in the rink. So, yeah, we went there.
I know Peter Pitt is a chain, but whoever owns the franchise in Hudson is clearly giving some money to Hudson Youth Hockey, because 4 signs in the building. And they had Hudson Havoc, the junior league team in whatever league they're in. They had
USPHL.
They had schedules for them up in the restaurant. So
okay.
Yeah. You're traveling for hockey, go to the restaurants that support the hockey.
That's a good point.
That makes me wonder if Manny's has a sign up in Eau Claire. My answer to that would be, if they don't, Burglar's not really going to Eau Claire for the hockey game. The hockey game is just a convenient excuse for him to go to Manny's.
Pretty good stuff there at Manny's.
Yes. Mexican seafood.
All right. Our final thoughts for the week. I guess it's my turn this week.
Well, let me do the Hobie Baker thing first.
All right.
Because this Tuesday, or no, the 6th, next Sunday, is the deadline for the Hobie Baker Character Award. Nominate a senior from your team. It's the 17th year for the award. Right now, or as of yesterday, I think we stood at 30 nominees from the boys teams and 10 from the girls teams. I know traditionally we hit around 70%. We always feel it should be 100%, but we're only like halfway to the 70%. I know a lot of the nominations do come in the last week. But if you have a senior on your team who shows character and excellence and a love of the game and sportsmanship, nominate him for the Hobie Baker Character Award.
Yeah, and if I know there's anything high school coaches like doing with off ice stuff, it's waiting until the last minute.
This year here in Janesville, we have one senior this year on the high school team. One.
Well, that should make an easy choice.
Well, that and plus senior,
unless he's a dick.
Nah, he's a decent guy.
Janesville's had a pretty good year, so that means they should be pretty good next year too.
Their talent is in the junior class. I mean, they got some things they need to address, but
12-6 is still pretty good.
Well, they've had a good season. Yeah, they've beat some decent teams, and the Big 8 is not nearly what it used to be 20 years ago. That used to be one black and blue conference. But Verona obviously is the jewel of the conference these days. Janesville and Madison Memorial been up there in the 2 and 3, bouncing around a little bit. So neither one has hit the Verona's reached the top 6, but really nobody else has come close to that top 6 in Division 1. Lost my train of thought because I had something I was going to say, talking about. I remember what it is. Check this out. Since we have one senior here in Janesville, does that mean senior night is all about him?
I certainly hope so.
You can't hardly skip senior night.
No, we're not going to skip senior night, but he's not the only senior because we got a manager who's a senior.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, let me look at the roster here. Oh, Janesville doesn't have grad year listed on the roster. What's the senior's name?
Caden Garcia.
Well, they shouldn't have senior night. They should have Caden Garcia night.
He's got his big old banner hanging up there.
You got a bobblehead?
Caden Garcia bobblehead night?
There you go.
Well, that's a good idea. I like it. By the way, our Mason Hammett Shrine in the Garage still has his big hockey senior picture hanging there with his stick. The glory days. Well, hey, the glory days are coming around here in Wisconsin high school hockey. The state tournament's coming around, and WIPH, as you guys know, plans on being there. But I'll tell you, it's money's pretty tight right now for us guys. Every year it's we able to come up with the money, and we probably will this year, but the advertising revenue hasn't been there this year, and we could really use a little help. If you like the site, you like the podcast, even if you don't like the podcast, we could sure use a little donation, whether it's your booster club or just somebody who just wants to help out. On the top of the website page, there's a donate here tab. It says donate here, don't it? Is that right?
Yeah, it says donate to WIPH.
Donate to WIPH. There you go. You go up
If you
there,
don't
you
like
click on
if
it.
you hate the podcast enough and donate enough money, we won't even do it. You
Problem
give us
solved.
a super big chunk of money, we won't even record for the rest of the season. We'll just do it all in text.
So, but anyways, we could really use your help. Whether it's a booster club or, have a bake sale. I don't care. But if you guys really want to help out, we would sure appreciate it. There's a lot of costs that come along with going to the state tournament. And, it's just one of those things where it costs money to do that stuff. And the money just more or less just really isn't there at this point for us to go there. But with a little help, I'm sure we will get some. But, if you feel the need or want to help out, enjoy the website, click right up there to donate to WIPH up there on the top of the page and help out. And we would sure appreciate it. And as they would say in Bartles and James, we thank you for your support.
And we've received 6 donations so far. And thank you. You know who you are. We know who you are too. We thank you for that. Slowly, we still have some time to go, but yeah, we have to rent space down there. We have hotel rooms. We have expenses for that. So we'll get there.
We'll get there.
With your support.
Has Trasher donated since he's alumni of WIPH now?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Okay. All right. We'll have to knock on his door a little bit. So, guys, anything else you want to hit up while we're here?
No.
I'll take that as a no. Should be some pretty good.
After the last couple of weeks, Burglar and I are going to take it easy this week. I think we're only going to go to the Badgerland Conference tournament on Saturday for those 4 games. None of this Tuesday hockey practice on Wednesday, another game on Thursday, then 2 more games on Saturday. Not doing that this week. That was last week.
Unless
So
Grandma wants.
instead, we're just doing 4 games on Saturday.
Unless Grandma wants the kids, right?
I think Grandma's kidded out.
Well, all right. Well, I think we've hit the end of the road of this podcast. So, guys, nothing else you want to add? No?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So for the Mr. Berg and other Mr. Berg and Del Scanlon, I'm Mike Hammett. Next week, we'll be right back here on This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey.